Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this evening's meeting. The Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Board of Trustees are now convened in a regular board meeting on Monday, October the 11th, 2021, in the boardroom of Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Instructional Support Center, located at 10,300 Jones Road, Houston, Texas, at 6 p.m. I want to welcome the members of our audience and our television viewers to this meeting of the Board of Trustees. As the Cypress-Fairbanks Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to items on tonight's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by sections 551.071 through 551.084 of the Texas Government Code. These proceedings are airing live on Comcast Channel 16 and the district website. They will also be available as video on demand on the district website following tonight's meeting. For the video to adequately reflect the proceedings, I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that all cell phones are turned off or in silent mode. I just did mine. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening and for your interest in Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize our Community Leadership Committee members who are in attendance this evening. If you're not familiar with that group, they meet once a month and they learn more information about the district and how the district is run and what is happening within the district. Our community leadership members are, would you please stand, Nancy Frankel. Thank you, Nancy. Tana Lamb. Thank you, Tana. Stacy Anderson. Thank you, Stacy. I appreciate y'all and certainly your devotion and dedication to supporting Cy-Fair. The invocation for tonight's board meeting will be given by Andy Spell, Associate Pastor of West Houston Church of Christ. Andy and his wife Cheryl have 2 sons, a daughter and a grandson. Andy's children attended Cy-Fair schools, and his daughter and son-in-law are teachers at Cy Ranch High School, and his daughter-in-law teaches at Pope Elementary School. Andy has been in the ministry for 35 years and loves this community. Thank you, Andy, for being here tonight. Before the invocation, I would like to introduce the Cypress Woods High School AFJROTC cadets who will be presenting the colors this evening. Carrying the American flag, Cadet Caden Stewart. Carrying the Texas flag, Cadet Daniel Singer. American Guard, Cadet Austin Letterman. Texas Guard, Cadet Adrian Gonzalez. These cadets present the colors to you under the direction of Christopher Soto, Master Sergeant, retired, United States Air Force. At this time, I would ask you to stand for the invocation and then the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you pray with me, please? Our Father, thank you so much for gathering us in this place tonight. What a privilege it is to live in this community at this time. And we thank you for this school district and this community. Father, tonight I thank you for the school board, for the superintendent, for the administration that leads this community. Father, especially today, I thank you for all the teachers and paras and support staff and administration throughout this community at each school that are pouring their lives into the students. Father, thank you that we have dedicated servants that give themselves to loving children and teaching on education to them. So, Father, thank you for all who work tirelessly for our schools. Father, I also ask you to please be with every family and every student represented in this beautiful school district. Father, I ask tonight that you be with each family and that the very best is being given to our children here. Father, as I look at this community, at the world and what is going on right now, Father, I continue to pray that COVID is gotten rid of so we can go back to normal possibly soon, and especially for the health of all the families around this community. And Father, I at last ask that the only agenda in this community be the agenda of educating our children well, putting them first, loving them well. And may our children leave this community knowing that we see the best in them, that we love the best in them, and that you see them as your children and that you delight in them. Father, we give you this night, we give you this school year. Help us be a community that loves children well, that sees them succeed, and expects goodness in each one. And it's in your Son's name that I pray tonight. Amen.
Amen.
Reason, arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, arms. Post. Order, arms.
You may be seated. Thank you, Reverend Spell, and thank you, Cy Woods High School. Board Member Don Ryan will read the district's vision and mission statement for the benefit of the audience. Mr. Ryan?
Our vision at CFISD is formed from the acronym LEAD, to learn, empower, achieve, dream, lead. Our mission is to maximize every student's potential through rigorous and relevant learning experiences, preparing students to be 21st century global leaders.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. We will now proceed to the I'm sorry. You're not used to that? Okay. All right. We will now proceed with the recognitions portion of the agenda. The board recognized ICI Construction for the donation of funds to purchase school supplies for economically disadvantaged students. Don Tryon.
President Covey, Board of Trustees, Dr. Henry. Tonight we are celebrating a gracious, humble business partner that utilizes its resources for this community to strengthen and enrich the quality of education for our students. On behalf of CFISD, I am thrilled to recognize ICI Construction and specifically Bart Cobb, its president. ICI has an ongoing tradition of donating funds to CFISD at the completion of their construction projects. This donation is designated for the purchase of school supplies benefiting economically disadvantaged students. Their most recent gift of $30,000 continues the tradition of impacting the lives of students across the district. Over the last 5 years, ICI has generously donated $140,000 to support our district. We appreciate you, Mr. Cobb, for your dedication in bringing out the best in our community. Thank you.
Dr. Henry will make remarks and announcements, including the honors and achievements earned by staff and students in recent weeks. Dr. Henry?
Thank you, Mr. Covey. CFISD recognized 18 honorees of distinction at the 27th Annual Wall of Fame ceremony on September 27th at the Berry Center. Both the 2020 and 2021 classes were recognized in a joint ceremony. The honorees included 14 staff members who earned significant achievements or held prominent offices during the 2019-2020 or 2020-2021 school years. We also recognized 4 Friends of Education who have made major contributions to enhance the educational experiences of CFISD students. Our 2020 Friend of Education was Sci-Hope Executive Director Linda Zelinka. Our 2021 Friends of Education were 3 local hospital CEOs, Jerry Ashworth of Memorial Hermann Cypress, Keith Barber of Houston Methodist Willowbrook, and Jim Brown of HCA Houston Healthcare North Cypress. You can rewatch the Wall of Fame ceremony on the CFISD YouTube channel. 13 CFISD seniors representing 7 high schools were confirmed as semifinalists in the 67th Annual National Merit Scholarship Program. The 13 semifinalists placed among the top 1% of approximately 1.5 million students who entered the merit program by taking the PSAT during their junior year. Congratulations to all of our semifinalists. Mr. Covey, back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. We will now proceed with the public comments portion of the agenda. 4A, patrons who have duly registered per policy BED local may address the board and make public comments on an agenda item during or before the board's consideration of the item. The board may allow public comment on agenda items at all meetings. The board will continue with the remaining agenda after the registered patrons have had an opportunity to speak. Tonight, our first speaker is Burke P. Miller. If you've not spoken here before, the lights will come on, the green light. You will be given a minute, you're full of 2 minutes, and at 30 seconds before, the yellow light will come on, and at the red, please summarize.
We're speaking on agenda item 10A about the school board elections that Dr. Henry is going to remark about. I'm speaking primarily to the 3 board members running for re-election. In your resolution condemning racism from last September, which you 3 signed, among others, you opposed systemic racism and systemic oppression. Systemic racism is defined as racism written into America's laws and institutions. The norms and practices of only white people are what define American culture. All white people are racist and oppressors of everybody else. Systemic oppression says all whites have an unfair advantage because of their white privilege. So basically, they cheat others out of opportunities. These 2 terms are key elements of critical race theory. Mr. Ogletree, a few months ago in a board meeting, you spoke about how we all should love and get along with one another. You are pastor of a large church.
Sir, excuse me. This is a public comment item on remarks and achievements, and we don't have a public, we'll have an item posted on the election.
Yeah, the superintendent's going to speak about the election and the forum tomorrow night. And this election is that topic.
That's tomorrow night, sir. That's not tonight. And
But his remarks are in 10A tonight. I read them.
Do you have a 10A?
But sir, my point is that you can speak about the agenda items, but not to specific individuals or about agenda items.
This is an agenda item. 10A is speaking about the election in the superintendent's comments.
I would just go ahead and conclude your remarks, please.
Okay, I only got about 30 seconds left.
Okay, but just don't address to specific individuals, just about the agenda item is my point.
Well, I don't agree with that, but Mr. Ryan, you're an insurance agent and a member of the Cypress School Chamber of Commerce.
Again, this is about an agenda item, not directing
it
remarks
is an agenda
specific to
item.
an individual.
It's about the election. I don't,
Sir,
I
just please address the agenda item and not individuals. I'm just asking for you to follow the rules.
individuals run for the election, don't they?
Okay, thank you.
I'm-
If you can just conclude your remarks
Uh,
without addressing individuals. Just talk about the item. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Oh, all right. I won't mention individuals' names. How's that? Okay.
The agenda item, what you're addressing individuals, I'm just asking you to address the item. I just would like for you to follow the rules. That's all I'm asking.
I get that.
Okay.
I'm
thank you.
addressing
You
the
got it.
election.
You just wrap up. You'll be good. Thanks.
Okay. Well, some members have expressed ideas that are antithetical to a lot of the regular folks that are in this room. One of the members has 5 grandchildren. I have 5 grandchildren. Do the board members really believe that these 10 children are little racist, mini oppressors, and young cheaters just because they're white? Maybe someone should tell them, and everyone else as well. It's time for us to get the word out about what is being taught in the district. Thank you. Christian people.
Angela Martin Greer.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to take an opportunity.
Hold on just a
I'm
minute. She's got to reset the clock. Just a
sorry. Oh,
second.
okay, sorry.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the board for letting me speak. As a Cypher resident, I would like to comment on Agenda Item 9C2, Compensation and Benefits, Compensation Plan, Proposed Revision to Pay During an Emergency Closure, those not accessing emergency closure leave. I am in support of this clarification. As this proposed revision, I appreciate the board recognizing changes affecting students and staff alike and taking the necessary measures to provide the best overall environment. When my sister, who's a teacher in the district, was diagnosed with COVID last spring, the federal government had measures in place to provide compensation for teachers while out with COVID. However, those funds were no longer available this fall. The board recognized this shortfall. Spearheaded by Dr. Ogletree, the board took places to address it. Now, affected teachers have 10 paid days off to recover from COVID, allowing them to focus on their recovery without worrying about their income. I've known Dr. Ogletree for years, and he has a reputation of being someone—
Ma'am?
I'm sorry?
I'm so sorry. The agenda item is on leave, and so I need you to stay within the agenda item and not address individual board members, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Given the challenges currently facing our community and district, learning loss, income loss, and physical and mental health challenges, largely due to the pandemic, consistent proven leadership is vital. I'd like to thank the board for all that they do. Thank you.
Laura Mulholland.
So is the timer reset? I'll start it when you start speaking. Okay. Hi, my name is Laura Mulholland. I've lived in Cypress for 15 years, and my children attend CFISD schools. One graduated in May, and one is currently a junior at Cypress Ranch. I want to speak in support of the shared service agreement between CFISD and Lone Star. This program helps many students prepare for college. Many students struggle with math, my own kids included. I used to teach the advanced algebra class. By allowing them to get credit for the developmental classes in high school, this greatly helps their self-esteem. Many students only require college algebra in college, so if they can take that right off the bat, then they have a good start. Lone Star does an excellent job supporting our kids and our teachers, and I enjoyed teaching that class, so I'm in support of continuing. On a side item, my daughter was in the College Academy class that graduated this past May. I just wanted to show y'all, she was core complete, so she got all of her core classes taken care of, crossed off by her advisor. I was very thankful for that, and the joint effort between our schools and Lone Star, I'm very thankful for that, so I wanted to thank y'all for that. And that's it.
Tawana, I'm having trouble reading your last name. Would you step up? Will you tell me what your last name is, please? Thank you.
Thank you. I am also speaking on agenda item 9E. The board will consider approving the shared service arrangement between CFISD and Lone Star College. We moved here, August makes 10 years. My youngest was a kindergartner and my oldest was going to 3rd grade from Beaumont, Texas. She was in private school then, and we had to determine whether or not we wanted to keep her in private school. After reading about Cyfair ISD and doing my own research, I could see that you all genuinely cared, and I wanted to look back. So I looked as far back as 5 years, and I could see the progression. I knew that that is what I wanted for my children, as well as the various opportunities. My oldest daughter just graduated in May. She is a freshman at Spelman College in Atlanta. She was a part of the dual program with Lone Star College, and she obtained over 20 hours. She also was selected to be a part of Leadership High School, which is a partnership with Lone Star College. And I will tell you that so many wonderful things and opportunities came as a result of her being a part of Leadership High School. And anybody else who's had a senior or has a current senior, you know that when scholarships come up, as well as applications for admittance, having those college hours made a big difference. So I will support and encourage you to please continue the partnership with Lone Star College and continue to support our students. Thank you very much.
William Ely.
My name is William Ely, and I'm a parent of 2 in the district. I'd like to thank the district for adding detail for public comments in the meeting minutes from our last meeting, a much better reflection of the spirit of that input. However, I must say I am deafened by the silence from this board on the issue raised in the last board meeting regarding the regular pattern of offensive statements made by one of its members. To refresh our memory, here are 3 of those statements.
Mr. Ely, I need you to speak on the minutes.
I am. AA reflects
sir,
on the last meeting's minutes. That's what I'm commenting on.
You can't speak about individuals.
It's in the meeting agenda.
Sir, but
I
as
mentioned
far
no
as
names.
citizen
I mentioned no
participation-
names.
Sir, I think
Yesterday's
you're
Ku
done.
Klux-
No, sir, I'm sorry. Sir, and it was too much last month, and no, ma'am. And so, sir, you can't speak about individual staff or public
I
officials
mentioned no
during
names.
public
The public,
comment.
the community should be aware.
Sir, public comment, you're making public comment on an agenda item, which is the minutes.
My comments
You've
speak.
gone
My
beyond-
comments speak directly on
you've
the
gone
policies.
beyond-
My
sir,
comments
you've gone
speak directly
beyond
on the
the public
policies
comment
of
for
this
the minutes.
community.
The public comment is on the minutes, and you've made your comment on the minutes, and thank you for that. But beyond that, you're off
I am
of
talking
the
about
public
the
comment
policies
topic.
that this district has put in place. It's
But-
a double standard that
but
you put on
sir,
the faculty,
that's not
the
what
administration, and our students.
Sir.
They're not applied to these board members.
Sir, your public comment form is to speak on the minutes,
On
and you've
AA,
covered that.
AA.
You've covered.
AA is in the meeting agenda.
But sir,
Does
you've
this board
covered
have to
that.
approve the meeting minutes? My comments
Sir,
refer to those meeting
You've
minutes.
covered the meeting minutes.
Huh?
You've covered the meeting minutes in your comment. When you go beyond that, you're beyond the
Those are my
agenda item.
comments in those meeting minutes. Let me
sir,
finish.
But no, sir, you're speaking on the minutes themselves, whether they're approved or not, and you commented on that. When you
Yesterday's-
go beyond that, sir, when you go beyond that, then you're going beyond the public comment agenda posting. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. You're done. Thank you. Thank you, sir. You've just
No.
gone beyond.
I should get to comment on the
But, sir-
policies that this district
But,
has
sir,
put
but
in
that's
place.
not, but sir, you're to speak
Excuse
on
me.
the public comment.
Excuse me. Excuse
I
You
mentioned
have
no
spoken
names,
on-
Bob.
Sir-
Bob,
me.
I mentioned no names.
Excuse me. Excuse me. You have to understand that this is a meeting of the board. It is not a meeting of the public. And once more, I'm sorry, but if you look at,
But Bob, can't a member of the community cannot comment on the policies of this district as they apply to the administration, the faculty, the students, and this board? My comments are talking specifically
sir-
about the ethics of the board, the policy that this
Sir, but
district
you-
has put in place.
And I understand that. What you signed up to speak on for public comment was public comment on the minutes. What you've just described, speaking on the policy, speaking about board members, that's not what you signed up to speak for. I'm asking you to
My
follow.
testimony is about the lack of any voice
But,
on my
sir-
comments from the last meeting. That's why I'm raising it again.
But sir, they were reflected in the minutes and you
They were
acknowledged
reflected,
that.
but there's no answer.
And-
There's no voice from the
But,
board
sir,
on the comments.
But that's beyond what you signed up for. I'm just asking you to follow the rules on public comment. We have other avenues to address
No,
citizen
Yeah, in private
participation.
quarters, the community should hear these comments. The
But,
community
sir,
should be
this is-
aware of the policy that the board has put in place.
Sir, citizen participation is the opportunity to share comments with the board. It's not an opportunity for the public to have a meeting or for you to make public comments. It's for you to make comments to the board, and you've done that.
Are the slots for citizen participation full?
I
Teresa, are they
don't
full?
know, sir.
What's that? Can I speak in those minutes if there's room?
If you signed up to speak in that, then you could, if you signed up to speak, I'm sorry. Hold on, I'm sorry, hold on.
Okay.
Just a second, hold on.
now
Let
we
me
are
get them
probably going to
quiet, and
break.
then I'll
Thank
answer
you
your
very
question.
much. If
Okay,
you want to
guys,
stay.
Guys, I can't even hear Mr. Ely. So I need you to please be quiet, because if you disrupt the meeting,
All right.
we'll have to stop the meeting.
Marnie, we're going to
Okay.
stop the meeting right now.
Let me
So-
answer Mr. Ely's question. I couldn't hear him.
I'm
So
sorry.
I don't know, sir, if there are, but let me check on that and we can,
Because had I known that, I would have applied for that one.
okay,
I thought
okay.
my comments were on 8A. It's clearly in the agenda. I'm speaking to those minutes. If that wasn't allowed then, and if there's slots available in citizen participation, I'll do it then.
If you would like, I will check while we go on, because the board has to go on with the meeting, and then
All
I
right, but
promise
how
I will
hard is it
follow
to
up.
check how many you have in citizen participation?
I believe they're signed up, but I'm going to check on it further, if you would
Well, can't you
please.
just have her say how many?
We had more than 10. There was a lottery drawing tonight.
Okay, you can go. I think that's the last one. So,
Okay, the board would like to go ahead and move on, and we will come back to this if that's what we need to do. We will now proceed to the board comments portion of the agenda. Any board member may make a comment during this portion of the agenda without prior posting being required. Comment items may not pertain to the character of any student, staff, or board member and may not be discussed or deliberated upon at this meeting. I'm going to invoke a presidential privilege because I would like to make a statement. As board president, this evening regarding the No Place for Hate anti-bullying program that was been issued by some of our campuses for over 20 years, we are listening and working to understand the concerns of our community regarding the program. We have been meeting with parents, students, church leaders, and community members. In August, Dr. Henry stated on a discussion item that he would be working with the Superintendent Student Leadership Council, which is represented from all 12 of our high school. Because of the changes in some of the materials offered by the Anti-Defamation League, the developers of the No Place for Hate program, we have made a decision to direct the administration to put a hold on this program across the district. Our intent is for the district to develop an internal, age-appropriate series of programs specific to Cyfair ISD to be implemented at our campuses. During our discussions with the community members, we realize that most people are unaware of certain requirements placed on public school districts by our state government. The governor has specifically charged school districts to address bullying and to support positive school climate as part of his school safety directive following school shootings in Texas. The state legislature also passed a law in the 86th legislative session, which is now being defined by the Texas Education Agency, that requires school districts to add character education to their curriculum beginning this school year. This specific law, House Bill 1026, was passed by a former representative from the Cyfair area and is now state law for all Texas public school districts. Cyfair ISD will use input from students, parents, faculty, and community members and follow the letter of the law to create a program that best meets the needs of our students. The development process is just beginning. We will share more information as soon as it's available. Thank you. Board members, do you have anything you'd like to say? Ms. Heineman, were you moving toward the mic? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to share just a couple of statistics. I'm not sure if we're going to get an update tonight, but I understand that we are over 116,000 students. 117,000 students. That's fantastic news. In Cypher ISD, over 15,000 employees at our 92 campuses. We have the highest financial accountability rating in Texas with one of the lowest administrative cost ratios. Simply means that we do more with less and focus on what's most important, which is students and teachers in classrooms. I was especially thinking about having over 15,000 employees, so I looked up the largest 100 employers in Texas. We are right in between Phillips 66 and MD Anderson Cancer Center. That says a lot about our school district out here in Cyfair ISD. Recently, I had several people reach out to me to say, I don't know how you do it. I couldn't just sit there when people are yelling in the boardroom and saying all kinds of things at the podium. And the truth is, I don't have a choice. This is very frustrating to me. You see, the board operates as a corporate body, a body of one, not as individuals. We are bound by state laws that permit us to conduct district business only in the public and only under very specific rules. Believe me, I wish I could respond sometimes, especially when false statements are made in these public meetings. So the best I can do instead is to reach out to community members, to have a personal conversation, to strive to better understand concerns, and to offer insight and accurate information. Since the last meeting, I've met with lots of people, including parents, pastors, and business leaders. I listened to their questions and hopefully cleared up some misunderstandings. At the superintendent's faith-based leaders meeting, a pastor shared that when the board sits here silently during citizens' comments, it comes across as if we're not listening, that we don't care, and that we don't want people to come and share with us. Please know that it is very much the opposite. We are listening. We do care. We do want people to come and share their concerns and thought with us. I am thankful for the pastor's honesty and for the opportunity to share that we are unable to react or respond due to state law, but we absolutely are listening and we care. During my many interactions with community members over the past month, 2 different people shared that they wanted to come to a board meeting to speak about their positive experiences with Cypher ISD and to express their support for the district and the board. Sadly, both said that they were reluctant to because they were concerned about being heckled or made to feel uncomfortable by other community members in the audience. One is a parent of 2 Cypher ISD students, and the other is a pastor at a local church. This saddens me, and I encourage them both to have courage and to come speak at a meeting. I also find it ironic and disappointing that a community member who has spoken several times at board meetings, calling for greater transparency and more communication with board members, actually refused to meet with me when I asked to sit down with him to listen to his concerns. Apparently, better communication to some folks is only one way and only in front of cameras, but not sitting down over a cup of coffee and having an honest conversation together. Other highlights since our last meeting, I had an awesome Zoom interview with a teacher who's working on his PhD. The topic was school accountability. We had an exceptional conversation, and he's a great example of the continuing work our teachers do to grow and continue their own education. Our guidance and counseling and psychological services departments hosted a mental health resource fair to share so many local resources to support families and school staff focusing on student mental health. I was thrilled to see a parent there that I had just met with that morning to talk about our COVID protocols, and I invited her to come to the mental health resource fair, and she was there. It was so great to see her. I also got to see some folks from Humble ISD who came to visit the mental health resource fair. They shared that they want to do something similar in Humble, and it was great to see that we are a positive role model for other school districts. Finally, I want to share a conversation I had with a student at a football game. During halftime, she came and sat in the aisle next to me in the stands. She's a senior, and she wanted to share with me how excited she is about graduating next spring as a member of the college academy. She'll be receiving her high school diploma and her associate's degree at the same time. She's enrolling in the 4+1 program at Sam Houston State University, which means she'll graduate with her master's degree. But it won't be the typical 5-year program. It'll be 3 years because of her associate's degree that she's earning here at Cy-Fair. So she's going to graduate with a master's degree in 3 years. Isn't that awesome? No. It gets better. She's going to be a teacher. She's going to come back and teach in Cypher ISD. Isn't that great? Oh, no. Okay, I promise I'm almost done. She has a younger brother who is brilliant and has special needs. He's been homeschooled until this year when he started attending high school as a freshman. She said he's doing great and thriving in public school. I'm so proud of him and of his mom and grateful for all the families who put trust in Cypher ISD for us to educate their children. I love sharing good news and positive stories about our school district. There's so much good in our classrooms, on our fields and courts, and across all of our facilities. If someone's only talking about the negatives and complaining about our schools, please know there are many more parents and employees who are happy with Cypher ISD and are appreciative of our teachers and the opportunities available in the district. I believe that we are the best school district in Texas, thanks to our incredible teachers, administrators, bus drivers, nurses, custodians, and especially our superintendent and his team. Thank you.
Ms. Blackshear. Ms. Blackshear.
Hi.
And welcome back. I know you came Thursday, but I was out of state. So
Thank you. Well, there weren't many people here Thursday night, so I just wanted to once again thank everyone for their many prayers from our district, from our community, my family, my friends. If you don't know, my last meeting here was in June because in the middle of July, I came down with COVID. I was vaccinated, but was autoimmune compromised and was not aware that the drug I took for that syndrome made me immune compromised. I call them COVID moments now. It used to be old age, now it's COVID moments. But I spent 18 days in ICU. I spent 9 more in the hospital and 23 in rehab, learning how to stand and walk again. I never in a million years dreamed I would be in a fight for my life. So if you think COVID's not real, just talk to me, I can tell you. And I was told by the doctors they said the only reason I survived was because I was vaccinated. I know the reason I survived were the prayers that were lifted up for me and the grace of God. And so I'm back. I'm not back all the way. They tell me complete recovery will take 6 to 12 months. I am amazed that I'm already walking with a cane, but the body is still very weak, and it lets me know because I tire easily and I still have breathing issues. But it's great to be back with my Cypher ISD family. And again, thank you so much for your prayers, your love, and support. Thank you.
Dr. Ogletree?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank this board for allowing me to be your delegate at the TASB convention in Dallas. And it was my pleasure to be with all the delegates from across this state, covering all the issues that you can hardly imagine that confront our school boards. And many of them are similar, no matter whether it's in the Panhandle or in West Texas or East Texas. But it was a very good meeting. And it was good to see you, Bob, become our first vice president of TASB, and let's celebrate that. And I want to just go over a few of the courses that I took, and many times I enrolled in courses to see what other districts are doing, and to see and to contrast them or compare them with what we're doing. And it never fails to come true that Cypher is way ahead of the game and sets the pace in so many areas across the state. And I looked at the Arlington ISD, their effort at mobilizing social media and the to communicate during the COVID pandemic, and also I looked at the collaboration of the school district with partners in the community on advancing equity. I did do the legislative updates, 2 of those, and was fortunate to be in our own Roy Spriggs a workshop on the future of school administration spaces, looking at the new architectural placement of spaces. I also want to report that I was blessed to participate at the prayer at the polls this year. I met Coach Derek Bess, who is over the Fellowship of Christian Athletes in our community, and joined him at Cypress Ranch High School and prayed with the students there at Cypress Ranch, and also went to Spillane Middle School and prayed with the students there. And at each school there were faculty and staff there, and we had a wonderful time of prayer around the polls at both of those schools. Also, as Julie mentioned, was at the faith-based meeting, and that's another thing that our district is way ahead of. And thank you, Dr. Henry, for really promoting that. And we had pastors from across our district there to listen to updates, ask questions, and many of those pastors and their churches have adopted schools like my church, First Metropolitan, have. And we heard a very good address from Charles Foster Johnson, who is the director of Pastors for Texas Children. So it's been a blessed few weeks for me and being a school board member. Thank you.
Mr. Jackson.
Debbie, it does my heart good to see you back. I wear the mask tonight as a way of saying thank you to him and his grace and his mercy for you to be back with us.
Thank you, John.
MD Anderson told me that when you wear a mask, it's not so much for your own protection, but for those around you. So I wear a mask to respect your presence. During the past month, I gave a day of service teaching fifth graders about one of my favorite subjects, formative American history, sprinkling a little patriotism along with the history. I was also in Louisville talking to an education committee on much the same topic. When I speak to children, and I've spoken at this point, I guess, to over 30,000 school children and adults, my message used to be that all three of our great ethnicities had a hand in creating this country, but we all mature and learn. And what I said and have said for the past few years is all five of our ethnicities had a pivotal part to play. For you history buffs, you have to figure out and follow the tea leaves, so to speak, to connect all five ethnicities, but it's right there in our great history. I too attended the Dallas Convention, courses that that resonated with me: mental health, teacher and student burnout, and student achievement. All three are challenges during the second year of COVID, but I do believe that our district is in fact going in the right direction to address all of these. I attended CLC as I often do. So, Mr. President, I was not surprised by your comment. I had an inkling that you might be saying that. I'm glad you did. It's important to listen to the community. I also attended the Wall of Fame. Wonderful people who were recognized, in particular, were the Friends of Education. During the COVID year, we have relied upon their advice. They are experts in the field. And even though it's been difficult and community sentiment has been heavily divided on both sides, and with good reason, their advice has been something that we can in fact follow, and we have done so. This district for the last 20 years has always been held up to be the epitome of efficiency and effectiveness. Well, in the last 2 years, I'm very proud of the senior administration, but also this board, because we added a third E, that of empathy. And once again, leading our great state. Interestingly enough, I also attended a chamber event where Dr. Pam Wells spoke, and she spoke on the role of traditional school board members. It was only with a touch of irony that I went to one of our schools to speak on exactly that topic. However, with a cafeteria full of school children, I really didn't have to say anything other than to listen to their questions. And parents of those children, be proud of the questions that your children asked. They were remarkably on point, and some of them were rather poignant as well. They wanted to know, if I wasn't paid for doing this, how did I afford to eat? And what would I do for money? if I was no longer a board member. I had to think about that. I'm not being paid as a board member, but at some point in time I will roll off. And of course, as always, I attended VIPS, Lunch and Learn. I always attend these as much as I can for a couple of reasons. When I first ran for this board 10 years ago, there were many different campaign issues, one of which was the closure of the Science Resource Center, which I believe should remain open for the benefit of our students and their academic attainment. And so with that covers some of what I did during the past month, Mr. President, and I'm pleased to surrender the microphone back to you.
Thank you. Mrs. Arabia.
First of all, I want to welcome everybody. Agree or we don't agree, I'm glad you guys are here. I'm sure everybody else also supports that. I want to welcome Debbie back. Debbie, you don't know how much we missed you and prayed for you, and we're just so glad that you're back. Also, I want to, and I don't, I'm going to say it this way, but I don't mean nothing by it. I love the Julie Heineman. The Julie Heineman has had a long summer, and but with today, I'd like to welcome her back as well, because I stand behind Julie Heineman's comments 100%. Great job, Julie Heineman. Nice to have you back. Also, the last month, going on to this week, I had it's just been a terrible year for me as far as people coming and going, and mostly going. My brother passed this past month, and he was, it was ready time for him to go. He's in a better place. But I want to, and I had like 4 friends and family members pass this past month. Just been terrible. But I want to thank the administration. My God, I turn around at the Mass at the church, and they're there. And all the thank you notes from throughout the administration and friends, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. That's community there. That shows that goes beyond the call of duty. And I thank every one of you guys for being there in a time of need, because it's never easy to lose a loved one and stuff like that. So thank you very much, guys. I want to make sure I said that to you guys. On my visits, I've been out and about. I've been going to, and Nina knows this, I've been going to the Berry Center. I've been going to Pridgeon. I've been catching games. If you know me, I'll try and catch as many games as I can. And most of the time I'm there, again, like I said before, refereeing. They don't even know who I am. And I'm asking questions, how things are going, how things, and they usually say, oh, I recognize you now, because I kind of go a little bit more. Are you getting everything that you need to be successful? Are you doing this and doing this? And in a good way. And they're very positive. They're very positive in responses. I'm out there talking to the community. I'm out there talking to the people that run Pridgeon and Berry, and to see the students, and they're yelling at the other side, and they're yelling at this side, and it's going on. And the Arden volleyball matchup at Cy Creek and Cy Fair, which went on there at Creek, and it went 5 matches, 15-13 last 5-game match, and I'm just sitting there. It's fantastic to be back in that part, and I want to applaud the administration and the parents for trusting us with your children and everything else. It's fantastic to see that. Just lovely. I too attended TASB in Dallas, and like Julie had mentioned, I took in a seminar that directly was teaching us how to not get in trouble with the law and what not to say, because we are held to certain standards, and we cannot comment on it, or we might not respond to it. And they're telling us in the seminars, don't do this because you could get in trouble. You could, it's against the law. So, and I too attended a seminar on doing that, and many others seminars there to get training done, and it wasn't Zoom. Oh my God, it wasn't Zoom. So it was person to person, and I thrive on that, and it was great to be able to like Dr. O said, see our compatriots throughout the state, El Paso to the Panhandle to the Valley to Dallas, and a lot of passionate people there for public education. It was great to see that again. I want to say around the district, it's booming. I didn't say it last time, Roy. The construction guys are going crazy all over the place. You got them building roads. You got them building this, and it's fantastic. The baseball fields are there. I even visited the baseball guys building baseball fields in Dallas. Are we going to be on schedule in January? We're going to be on schedule. Just asking really politely, with all the rain. And they're like, yes, we're trying to get on schedule. And it's everybody's working in coordination as a team to get everything on board, always 24/7 here, no matter what's going on. And I just want to mention it's fantastic seeing everybody busy out there doing what they're trying to do to make sure this district run functionally. Another thing here, one of the people that passed is a friend of mine, a friend of y'all's, Joe Beatty. Joe Beatty was a COC member, and he passed a week and a half ago, and maybe 2 weeks, and we were supposed to have coffee the week of his funeral. And Joe took me upon his wing there and saw something in me during the election, and kind of sheltered me in some places here, and let's go have a coffee here, and let's go meet some people here. And the gentleman passed unexpectedly, and got to visit with his wife and family, and thank them personally for Joe's community service, to say the least. Joe was somebody who was good with a handshake and looked me in the eye, and this is what we want to do, and was always concerned with the other people. Even in one of our CLC meetings, when somebody took ill, Joe was there on the ground with them right away until the ambulance came. That's the way Joe was. And we might not have agreed 100% with Joe, but Joe was good people. And I know everyone in here is good people also. And I just want to thank Joe and his family for being good people and stuff. And rest in peace, Joe Beatty. Also, the election's coming up, and I wanted to wish everybody a safe election. And let's honor the good people here, and let's have a good election, and be respectful in those terms and stuff. So, anyways, that's all I had to say. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
Thank you, Bob. I'll be brief. Debbie, thrilled that you're back with us. Missed you so much, and you're a walking testimony to the power of prayer. So, I'm just thrilled you're here. The other thing I want to say is earlier we recognized Mr. Cobb from ICI Construction. Bart, I cannot thank you enough for your partnership, and for those of you that are business owners in the community, it's not always about money. You don't have to donate money. What's just as valuable as your money is your time. And so we have our pastor that was here from Church of Christ. They're also a great business partner. If you want to be a business partner in the district, reach out to Dawn Tryon. She's amazing, and we welcome you. We need you. Literally, our business partners and our volunteers equate to millions of dollars in volunteer hours alone. And we are so grateful. And just know, Bart, you guys have made such an impact on students. And that's such a great legacy to leave. Obviously, we appreciate your business within the district. But I can tell you as a board member, I appreciate your partnership even more, because that's where you're making a lasting impact. So thank you for that. And again, reach out to Dawn Tryon if you want to be a business partner in the district. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Just brief comments from me, and that is much like Mr. Jackson and Mrs. Arabia and Mr. Ryan and Dr. Ogletree, I attended the TASA TASB. The TASA is the Texas Association of School Administrators, and TASB, the Texas Association of School Boards. And one of the things that's a highlight for me is the students' presentation, and it's always phenomenal. And it was a wonderful setting. The president for our TASB is out of Fort Bend, so his group that performed were wonderful. And the president of, I just went blank on who was president of TASA. Who is that? Northside. No, it wasn't Northside, was it? Okay, I'm sorry. Whoever it was, they were awesome. I will tell you, it was both of them followed a same theme, and that theme was to look on a brighter side. And I think that our kids are really wanting to see that. They're wanting to see that there's a restoration of normalcy, which would be wonderful, and also a collaborative effort. I'd also like to take a moment and congratulate some of our outstanding extracurricular groups. We've had some fabulous beginning of this school year. If you attend any of the athletics, football teams from 7th to 12th grade are working and competing and becoming more successful each year. I say that because I've got a grandson that's a freshman at Bridgeland, and I'm very proud of him and what he's doing and watching him play and becoming really a better player, and I see that. In the arts, bands, orchestras, choirs, theater performers, and artists are honing their craft. Some are upcoming competitions, some are for upcoming performances or exhibitions or both. Once again, I've got a granddaughter in middle school that's in choir, and they're getting ready to put on a performance, and they're just doing wonderful. And then you look at the FFA and industrial arts, and the students' commitments are underway. I think they had the drawing for their animals recently. The hogs, okay. And there's all kinds of projects going on. All of these students are being educated and trained by some of the very devoted teachers, coaches, directors, and parents and guardians. This is what is special about public education, and this is what we need to support and defend for all of our students. This is what I mean with celebrating diversity. This is what I mean for supporting inclusion, and this is what I mean by offering an opportunity for all. Thank you. Citizen participation. Patrons who have duly registered per policy BED local may address the board regarding matters of concern or interest to the district other than the character of any student, staff, or board member. The board may not act upon any matter that is not listed under the action item portion of the agenda. We have a number of speakers tonight. First speaker is Judy DeHaan, I believe is right.
Good evening, and thank you, board members, for allowing me to speak with you tonight. And however, I wish that this was truly a conversation. Conversation is really where both parties get to have a meaningful exchange of ideas and statements, as well as ask questions. In watching and listening to what is happening today in our school board meetings and policy decisions at the federal, state, and local level, we've lost sight of that fact. Conversation and debate are the primary means of how this country has made progress and decisions for the betterment of society. We have also lost sight of the goal of our conversations at the school board meetings, which is to ensure our children are receiving the best education possible to prepare them for the future. The primary stakeholder in achieving this are the parents. They are being left out, chastised, and now threatened by the federal government for trying to participate in conversations about their children's future. Texas state education representatives have become much more partisan and lost focus on academic achievement as well. The focus has become much more about ensuring social and emotional programs and digital learning are the means to ensuring their views and standards are achieved. We've seen our state academic levels decline year after year. And I would encourage you to watch the August 24th Public Education Committee hearing on the state government website, whereby to understand why I make these comments. And then there are the state open meeting laws that have been relegated, or rather have relegated parents' conversations to one-way statements of 2 minutes in length at board meetings. Why do I mention all of this? Simply to refocus on the fact that it's a simple conversation of putting the child first in their education. Increased transparency and communication with parents' involvement, not with select groups or people. The COC is not a fully representative body of parents or constituents to provide guidance to the board on policy decisions or issues of concern. They are have been primarily prior partisan PAC members, vendors, and or appointees. And with the forum tomorrow evening, it would be a perfect opportunity to have more of the questions asked of the school board candidates that are the actual concerns that have been voiced in this board meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian J. Henry.
Good evening. My name is Brian Henry. I am a Cyfair ISD parent and taxpayer. Recently, I received campaign literature in the mail from 3 candidates running against current board members. Their campaign literature touted their Christian values and opposition to CRT. I am appalled that these candidates are using their religious identity to attract voters. The U.S. Constitution states that there can be no religious test or requirement to hold public office, and I believe it is inappropriate for Christians or individuals of any faith to promote or give preference to their faith tradition as a candidate or office holder. I can only wonder how these candidates would react to someone touting their Muslim, Buddhist, or atheist worldview as a reason to vote for them. As for their opposition to CRT, or critical race theory, this has become a catch-all phrase used to oppose any teaching or curriculum that promotes diversity, inclusiveness, equity, or anti-racism. The result is to stifle free speech and shield students from unpleasant truths. Diversity, inclusiveness, and equity are American values. God willing, anti-racism will one day be an American value too. A school board member should serve the entire community in all its diversity, not the religious or political worldview of one extreme faction. I encourage those who care about this district and our pluralistic republic to vote for candidates who have already faithfully been serving Cyfair ISD or who reflect the youth and diversity of our community. Thank you.
Christina Woods. Yeah, we don't make it easy if you're in the middle.
Thank you for letting me speak. I have a child in the district. She has been bullied in a variety of ways in her high school, but one more recent situation has been particularly disturbing. It involves a student that is in several of her classes and is wearing clothing with language on it that supports a specific politician known for inciting racial hatred, bullying, and bigotry. My daughter feels threatened by this display, yet is expected to take the high road. Because of her experiences, I wanted to express my appreciation for the board and your efforts in keeping students safe. In order for students to engage successfully in classwork and in meaningful ways with their peers in the classroom, they must feel safe. In order for students to excel and reach their academic and creative potential, they must feel safe in their school. In 2020, the CFISD Board of Trustees passed a resolution condemning racism. The board then made a commitment to hiring an outside auditor to evaluate the equity of academic opportunity, representation in hiring, and student discipline measures as they relate to race in the district. You also adopted other action steps laid out in the resolution that include requiring the study and celebration of the history of different races, genders, and other people groups. The Board of Trustees has shown commitment to studying and addressing racial inequality on a broad scale in CFISD. This shows me that the district is taking the issue of racial equity seriously and is interested in ending the kind of situation my daughter has been dealing with. This gives my family hope that things can change for her and other students in the district dealing with bigotry and inequality in all forms. Thank you.
Marcel Alvarado. I'm corrected, it's Maricel. Okay.
Thank you. My name is Marcel Alvarado. I'm a parent since 2009 of 3 kids, 2 at Bridgeland High and 1 in Pope Elementary. I'm also an employee health nurse at Houston Methodist. And I just had the first day of school was actually, I was very anxious, but I was very thankful with talking to Mr. Smith at Bridgeland High. He was very, addressed all my concerns and everything, but I still think, I know you guys can't mandate the mask, but I really wish that you would still highly encourage and educate the teachers, the principals, and everything to just put out those signs saying, you're reminding people of the COVID protocols. Put out those, remind people that say, hey, if your kids are sick, make sure that they get tested before they come back to school. I know kids, I know not everybody can afford to take these time off. I lost 2 days already because I had 3 scares. My middle one has a history of asthma, and he suffers from allergies. And we had his IEP this past week, and I feel like masks are just like, people are afraid to talk about masks or vaccinations. This is not really a debate. It shouldn't have been a debate. It should have been over by now. If you want to help us in healthcare, please vaccinate and educate and mask up. Not everybody can afford to. Not everybody can afford these lost time, okay? I work in employee health. I manage these positive COVID cases. Most of these cases are from the community. They're coming from their kids, okay? And I have lost people in staff that are short-staffed because why? They get sick because of their kids who just got sick. So I just want to make sure, I know you guys can't mandate, I know,
Thank you very much, Ms. Alvarado.
Just want to make sure that you promote education. Thank you.
Nancy Frankel.
President Covey, board members, Dr. Henry, administrators, and others, thank you for the opportunity for me to address you this evening. My name is Nancy Frankel, and I'm a retiree living in the district. My husband and I have 2 daughters who graduated from Jersey Village High School, and they are successfully into their adult lives and careers, largely due to the excellent education they received in the classrooms, playing fields, and band halls of CFISD. I don't need to tell you about the challenges our schools, teachers, and students have faced over the last 20 months. A global pandemic, extreme weather events, and rampant misinformation have made all educators' responsibilities more difficult than anyone could have imagined. I want to thank you for shepherding the district through these tumultuous times and keeping the focus on opportunity for all and the education of all students. You've concentrated on academic excellence and the well-being of our children. You've done this while lowering taxes, providing pay raises, and working to address staff burnout. For this, I am grateful. Thank you.
Dr. Tara Cummings.
Hi, my name is Dr. Tara Cummings. I'm a licensed psychologist, licensed specialist in school psychology, and most importantly, a parent of 2 CFISD students. And I'm always mindful of our students' mental health because it's a crucial component of their academic success and overall well-being. I want to express gratitude to the district and our current board for the measures that they've taken to support and enhance mental health services in the schools. This includes things like funding positions within psychological services, creation of the mental health intervention team to respond to crises, the mental health resource fair, suicide prevention, including placing suicide and mental health crisis hotline information on the back of student badges, restorative discipline practices and efforts to move more toward that. At my son's high school, Cy Woods, they recently put on a production of Head Over Heels, which supports that as well. Mental health is important for all of our students, but especially those in marginalized groups. That would include our Black and Brown students, LGBTQ+ students, those who are economically disadvantaged, our ESL students, those of religious minorities, and our special education students. For those students in particular, supporting their mental health must include actions toward acceptance, inclusion, representation, equity, and justice. I'd like to thank sincerely our current board members and the district for their tireless efforts and advocacy in that regard. I want to urge the district to continue to support mental health in enacting the mission of opportunity for all. Thank you.
Elias Davis.
Hello, my name is Elias Davis, and I am a parent in Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District. My youngest daughter is a product and a graduate of Cypress ISD, K through 12. I am currently also raising my great-nephew in the school district at Campbell Middle School. In years past, I was very proud to say that my daughter was a student in this district. As parents, our number one priority is to provide our kids with the best education that tax dollars can buy. We have blindly trusted our educators and this board to also have the education of our kids as their number one priority. Somewhere along the way, the best interest of all of our kids has shifted, and now the board and educators' agenda seem to have become priority. I have listened to the district's mission statements. Well, we're not preparing global leaders if we're teaching one group of kids that another group of kids are inherently racist, and that the first group of kids have a built-in excuse, that to be underachievers because they are victims and or oppressed. All Cypress ISD students have equal access to learning and educational tools. Life is hard. Life is hard. I know it firsthand, but social engineering and virtue signaling has no place in our school district. If we want to empower our kids, prioritize our STEM programs so that all of our kids will be competitive global leaders. Your job is to approve curriculum that we as parents want, not to implement your personal agendas. If we're going to make Martin Luther King's dream a reality, we must at some point take our thumb off of the scale and stop creating more division. This board seems to have lost its way.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
Carol Lee Hale.
Hello, my name is Carolee Hale. I'm a parent of a Cypress ISD student. I would like to know why students with multiple disabilities are not allowed to ride school transportation safely. Why can't a safe contract be made for students that have been made for them 2 school years ago to ensure they still receive the rights as other students without disabilities receive? Why does a whole child's needs not being met, but rather picked and chosen which to address? Every school year, advocates must readdress the school and district. This year, I have been told 5 different excuses to why students cannot have their needs met after a plan was made to address this. Each time, a different excuse and a different place or policy was blamed. Lastly, it was the board that was blamed. Students' rights should be given to students regardless of their disability or needs necessary for the rights to be given or addressed. The students should never feel like they are not wanted or welcomed for something they cannot control about themselves. Please address your policy and how it violates students' rights and how it discriminates disabled students. I would like a safe agreement and plan to address all the students' disabilities and then to be centered as a whole. Thank you.
Nikki Cowart.
Tonight is the last formal school board meeting before voting begins for our Cypher ISD trustee election. Trustee, the word trust is in the title of trustee, and educators and community members alike just want to be able to trust that the people serving on this board are doing so for all of Cypher ISD. You know, something I'm guilty of not doing publicly often enough is giving thanks and praise to our school board trustees as the true volunteers that they are. And when our union, Cypher AFT, has made endorsements in school board elections current and in years past, not one time did we ask the candidate what political party they most align or identify with. You know why? And if you hear me say nothing else tonight, hear this. Unlike the claims by some of the hyper-partisan candidates in recent weeks, these elected positions are not about political party, but rather policy. So we wear purple tonight because this is not about red and it's not about blue, Republicans, or Democrats. Our union cares most about recruiting and retaining the best employees for our kids, all of our kids. Do you know what I know for sure? I know all of this for sure because in recent weeks, we have knocked on over 10,000 doors, all of them in Cypher ISD, and quite frankly, community members aren't concerned with the noise. Unlike the 10 or 15 people that have been coming to these meetings in recent months, not a single resident that we have spoken to talked about critical race theory. We spoke to everyone from parents to principals, teachers, grandparents, retirees. They talked about safe schools coupled with top-notch education. Don't believe me? Join us in knocking on the doors. 10,000, polling the real issues and not the candidates at all. So many wanted to talk to us about bullying, student mental health, social media TikTok challenges, bus driver shortages, even becoming a volunteer or a mentor at a campus.
Thank you, Nikki. Tana Lamb, excuse me.
Nervous. Hey, thank you for letting me speak, Dr. Henry and the Board of Trustees, and I'm happy to see you back, Mrs. Blackshear. It's very nice to see you back. First off, thank y'all for lowering our tax rate again. I think everybody can agree on that one, right? I am the parent of an LGBTQ child that attends high school in the district. I appreciate the message of kindness and inclusivity from our district leadership and board members. This translates kind of down to the school and the staff, and he feels safe, accepted, and is happy at his school. And this isn't about a lesson or anything he's being taught in class or teachers just teach the curriculum. He actually spoke a few board meetings ago and said they don't say anything political. It's really just about the general attitude of kindness and support that he feels from most of his from all the teachers and most of the children. Now, he does still get occasionally called the F slur in the hallway by people's children, but he honestly blows it off. I get upset. He says, don't say anything to anybody. I don't care. Those kids are idiots. And he moves on because he has a good group of friends. You know, he's in marching band, so yay, marching band has a good group of friends. I firmly believe, really, that his happiness and how happy he is at school is really due to just the overall kindness and acceptance, and everybody's nice, right? Nobody cares. Everybody just treats each other like they are. And I really, really do not want to move backwards on this one. So thank you very much. And the last thing, I asked the kids what they wanted me to say, and they said, it's very important we don't have soap dispensers at Bridgeland High School in our bathrooms. We want to wash our hands because of the TikTok challenge. So thank you.
We will now proceed with the reports portion of the agenda. 7A, in accordance with Texas Education Code and the State Board of Education regulations, the President of the Board will announce the name of each board member who has completed, exceeded, or who is deficient in the continuing education required under state law. The following members have exceeded their required continuing education credits per the above. Debbie Blackshear with 20.50 hours. Bob Covey with 25.25 hours. Julie Heineman with 28.25 hours. Tom Jackson with 23.0 hours. Dr. John Ogletree with 28.5 hours. Don Ryan with 21.0 hours. Gilbert Sarabia with 22.0 hours. Thank you, board members, for all exceeding. 7B, the administration will provide an update on the general operating budget for 2020-2021 school year. Karen Smith.
Before Karen gets started, I asked Karen if she would prepare a little something, so because as you know, the last 19 months have been very difficult financially, and I knew the community would want to know where we're standing, what our standing is as a district financially, so I asked her to kind of put together a little short summary today. Mr. Covey.
Thank you, President Covey and Dr. Henry. Throughout 2021, I've provided y'all with several updates to keep you apprised of the unique situations that our district has had and the different items that might affect our budget. So now I would like to provide you an update now that we are through the end of the fiscal year of where we believe we will be with our estimated results for 2020-21. I want to real quickly just review, as I have before, the COVID-19 costs that the district has incurred during the 2020-21 school year. The costs that you see reflected here are for July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. You'll see for the we had total expenditures of $119.7 million associated with COVID-19. In the general fund of that, it was $65.2 million. This included things such as payroll increases for the Lead Safely stipend for employees of $8.3 million and the retention stipend that the board approved for substitutes and temporary workers of approximately $402,000. It also included payroll increases that we incurred because of additional substitutes, as well as supplemental and overtime pay for various areas such as technology, nurses, operations, police, etc. A majority of the non-payroll cost that you see here is associated with the one-to-one devices that the board approved that was paid from bond funds during the 2020-21 school year. We also included items such as plexiglass dividers, hotspot service, as well as PPE. The lost revenues column or row that you see here includes lost interest income, lost income because of facilities use, athletic gate receipts, concessions, catering. And then also what you don't see here that you may remember is food service actually had lost revenues of over $5 million. We since have received some stimulus funding that came through the U.S. Department of Agriculture of $4.5 million. So that's why this amount is slightly less than what you previously saw. So I would like to also update you on the federal stimulus money that we have received to date. This chart reflects all the different types of federal funding that we received, and we've gone over this several times, which is the 3 different phases of stimulus money, the ESSER 1, 2, and 3 funding, as well as some coronavirus relief funds. As you're aware, the ESSER 1 funds were utilized by the state to supplant state aid in 2019-20. The district drew down about $2.3 million in 2019-20, and we specifically held back the remainder of the $15.4 million to offset our COVID-19 costs in 2020-21. The ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 entitlement amounts were released late in the school year. The grant applications were only made available right towards the end of the year, and then they were made available for were the ESSER 2 funds and 2/3 of the ESSER 3 funding. So far, we have not received a release or a chance to apply for the remaining 1/3 of the ESSER 3 funds. The stimulus funding, just so you know, is you might look up here and you say, well, why haven't we seen more money come in? What that is, it's a reimbursement for costs that we incur throughout the grant period. So these funds, for example, with ESSER 3, They actually are available to us through September 30th, 2024. So we will be drawing down those funds as needed between now and September 30th, 2024. We also received on June 1st approximately $7 million from the Coronavirus Relief Fund. This is the one where districts could be reimbursed for 75% of their costs from March 1st, 2020 through May 20th, 2020. And as a reminder, as you well know, most of our costs occurred during this school year. So we really weren't able to capture the greatest benefit from those funds. In addition, the district barely received, by June 30th, notification of the prior purchase reimbursement program funding. This relates to our one-to-one devices. So I would like to say kudos to Melissa McInerney and Amanda Bowles because they worked very, very hard because at first it appeared we were not going to receive much of this funding from TEA. And we worked with TEA, we worked with the Texas Department of Emergency Management, and we actually ended up receiving more than we actually applied for in that funding. So kudos to them. Also, in addition, the first stimulus funding that we did receive was the provider relief funds, which is to help offset, it was about $742,000, and that was to help offset some of our SHARS expenditures, which are related to Medicaid eligible costs that we could get reimbursed for. So now I'd like to discuss some of the factors that influenced our final amended budget. That would have made a difference in what we presented to you at the June board meeting. I indicated that the absolute worst case scenario would be approximately a deficit of $53.1 million. And I'd like to share with you why the possibility of such a deficit was shared with you at the time. First of all, TEA, their guidance says that whenever we have a budget, that the budget has to exceed those actual expenditures. Well, you know at year end, there's no way you can possibly imagine what would have happened, especially with last school year. So it's very difficult to predict exactly where we would be. So we make sure that we have enough funding available in the budget by function. And what that is that's the functional areas such as instruction, maybe guidance and counseling, maintenance and operations. In addition, TEA did not allow school districts to actually record or draw down or record funds associated with the ESSER grants prior to receiving approval of the grant applications. Therefore, at the time of the board meeting, we had not received approval of that. So we had to show the entire cost and not the revenue that the district would be receiving to offset some of those costs. Also, TEA announced that they would be providing some type of ADA hold harmless for school districts to help with any reduction in state funding. Well, at the time of the board meeting, when we all had to approve the final amended budget, we did not know what that ADA hold harmless would be for several reasons. One of which was we didn't have clear guidance from TEA yet on exactly how it'd be calculated, but also our final PEMS results and submission of our ADA data had not been submitted to the Texas Education Agency. We also had some supply chain issues where we were having trouble getting some of the items that we had purchased. So we were unsure which fiscal year those costs would be incurred in, but we recorded them in 2020-21 just in case they were received. In addition, the district was waiting on results of an appeal that we filed with the Department of Health and Human Services on some of our SHARS reimbursement. And then, as I've mentioned to you before, we always budget to fill all positions and to spend all funds. And we never know until the year is over exactly how many of those unfilled positions were unfilled all year and how much unspent funds we had. So let's go over what affected the budget this last year and what our status was and with the budget. First of all, the board approved a budget of a deficit of $39.8 million. The adopted budget had so many unknowns, and it included things such as $10 million towards coronavirus cost, as well as less revenue because we anticipated that maybe our attendance would be down, and it also included costs for increased substitutes. In the previous slide, I shared with you why the final amended budget showed a deficit of $53.1 million. But I also mentioned to you at that board meeting that I fully expected to see it be less than that, but at the time we felt that this was the way we had to present it because we did not have the information associated with the ADA hold harmless, as well as we had not gotten approval of our grant application for the ESSER funds. So once we allocated the ESSER 2 funds, because we did get approval of that those grant applications prior to June 30th, and as well as some of the items that I'm going to share with you on the next slide, I'm pleased to tell you that we estimate the district will actually have a surplus of about $2.4 million that we will be adding to fund balance. In November, the district will present the annual financial report to you, as well as the external auditor's report on the financial statements. So lastly, I would just like to go over the items impacting the actual results and why we'll be having a $2.4 million surplus in 2020-2021. First of all, we did receive more information related to the ADA hold harmless, and it is actually going to be less than we had anticipated. At the time, what we were told it was that it could be as much as 50% of our ESSER 2 funding. And just to refresh your memory, what happened with the ADA hold harmless is they were going to supplant state aid with that ESSER 2 money. Even though they were giving us the hold harmless, how we were getting that hold harmless is through funding from ESSER 2. And so it was less than anticipated. So, 84, our ESSER 2 grant amount could have been $84.3 million. So, 52% of that could have been $42 million that it could have been. We were very fortunate, and it ended up being about $15 million. It wasn't as much as we had anticipated it would be. And then we did get those grant applications in. What we did is after the board meeting where we shared with you at the committee of the whole, the ESSER plans, we immediately submitted the ESSER 2 and the ESSER 3 grant applications. And then we even went as far as to contact TEA and ask them to please prioritize those that had a June 30 year end. So we did receive approval of both of those grants prior to June 30th, and that allowed us to recode a lot of these expenditures that we incurred for COVID-19. In addition, we actually received notification and got a favorable charge settlement, and so that was about another $4.5 million. Also, the district, what we do every year, which you may not be aware of, is we actually appeal our property values, much like a taxpayer would. And so we received back, you can actually appeal a second time your property values, and so we received about $3.5 million from our 2016 property value appeal. And then also, we appealed the 2018 property values. And just to refresh your memory, House Bill 3, what it did is it provided school districts the opportunity to get something called transition grant. And how that worked is it compares your year to what you would have received under old law. One of the years that skipped whenever the HB3 happened, we used to be funded on prior year values. And then with HB3, it was current year values. So the year skipped was 2018. So we protested those property values. And fortunately, it actually put us into transition grant. So we will be receiving $6.2 million associated with 2019-20. And since that school year's over, we will be recording it in the current school year. In addition, it actually benefited our state aid funding that we received by $5.2 million in 2020-21. and we hope that it will benefit us again next year because that money will be running out after 3 years. But it's very nice that we will be able to get that. In addition, we transferred funds from contributions that we made in excess of claims in our self-funded insurance into the general fund. And then we had indirect cost on grants. And what those are, that's for the administrative costs for all the federal grants the district administers. And we can take a portion of that money and we can put it in the general fund to help us administer those grants. And because of the ESSER grants, we had more indirect costs than we would have normally had. In addition, our unfilled positions ended up being, you can only imagine with a year like this last year, a little bit more than we had budgeted for. And then also unspent funds were larger than we thought they might be. We were unsure of exactly where that would be. We did have more than normal, it's called roll forward purchase orders. And what that relates to is money where, because of supply chain issues, everything didn't come in this year. And some of those items will come in 21, 22. So now I am available to answer any questions you might have.
Board, anyone got any questions? Julie?
Karen, thank you for being on our side. Thanks for shaking the couch cushions to find all the pennies. And, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of effort. And to get those grants in and to fight for those dollars. I appreciate you and your team for what you do. Not everybody finds it as fascinating as we do, but yeah. I know, right? But this is like the true meat. This is the business of the district. So thank you for all that. That's all good news. That's fantastic news. I know as a community member, when I would sit in the audience and watch the board pass a budget, it always gave me heartburn that it was a deficit budget, and it used to freak me out. But now it doesn't because I know how it works. I know how school finance works. So the state is keeping a percentage of the federal funds.
Are you referring to the 1/3?
Yeah, no, I'm referring to we got 75% reimbursement. For that, and all part of the ESSER funds too. I'm sorry, I mean, but the state is not passing on all the funds; they're keeping some of it. Is that correct?
That particular one was through the Texas Department of Emergency Management, and it was administered similar to FEMA grants.
Okay.
So that's kind of looked at a little bit differently than the other
ESSER
ones.
funds are all being passed, or is the state keeping some of those funds?
The ESSER, we already know about the ESSER 1 funds,
Right.
which used to supplant state aid.
Yeah, so they kept all that.
There's a
yes.
portion of ESSER 2 for the ADA hold harmless that was kept, which was about $15 million.
Okay.
That was used to offset that. We are going to get the rest of the ESSER 2 money. And then so far we have been able to apply for 2/3 of the ESSER 3, and we feel that we'll get to apply for the
Another
additional
third.
third.
Okay.
We just have not received anything from TEA to give us notification that we can submit our grant application.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thanks for all you do. Appreciate that.
Dr. O.
Karen, thank you for the hard work and staying on top of this. Do we have to, in like the balance that we have with ESSER 2, and then those funds that we're eligible for ESSER 3, do we have to continually reapply, or once you all have requested, is it just in the bin, so to speak, and then they will let you know, or what else is required of us to get
That's a great question. You may remember what I said is that we get reimbursed for costs that have been incurred. So we have submitted initial grant application. And then one of the things that we will do, in fact, we're in the process of doing this right now, is we submitted it based on what we knew at the time. And we are allowed to then go back and amend it. At the time, we weren't sure what our ADA hold harmless would be. And so we didn't know how much we would be requesting of what's called pre-award costs. And those are costs that were incurred prior to the application date, prior to that time. And so, we'll have to amend our application, but it's been done. All we have to do is amend it. Then when it comes back approved, then we can spend it in that manner. But what we will be doing is drawing down those funds as we spend them. And I know Dr. Henry shared with you, we have to kind of look at this at 2 and 3 years out, because these grant funds are available for us through 2023 for the ESSER 2 funds and 2024 for the ESSER 3 funds. So we'll be addressing things such as learning loss throughout that period of time. So we're looking to maximize the use of those funds.
Mr. Ryan, you got it?
Karen, are these numbers, all the numbers that you've given us, reflective of the recent pay raise?
Oh, this is for 2020-21, so no, sir. It's
Okay.
not the current year 21-22.
And then what would our fund balance be?
Our fund balance will actually be, I've got that right here. I think it's about 500 and, I believe, 19 million. Let me pull that up and make sure. Here, let's see. And it'll be about 6.3 months in fund balance of expenditures.
Okay.
I looked at that just a second. I do have it. It'll be I was off by a million. It'll be 520,264,135. If it ends up being about what we've estimated, and we're pretty close to the end of the audit, so we believe it'll be very close to that figure.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Blackshear.
Well, mine is more of a comment in that it still goes against my grain that any government entity could withhold money that is intended for this school district. And the fact that the state used the first ESSER 1 funds to supplant money really just is inexcusable in my book. And, we are in great shape in Cypher ISD. We were able to buy and provide the Chromebooks that our students needed for learning. But that is not true for all school districts across this state. And, it's just another example of our government overstepping, I believe. Just a comment.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson?
Karen, good presentation.
Thank you.
Better than that is the good news that you had to share with us. But that good news did not happen without a tremendous amount of detailed work and attention to both the law but also to the numbers. So a tip of the hat tonight to you and your team.
Thank you. And if I might add, we have had wonderful principals and departments that have been good stewards of money, and I'd just like to add that in too.
Absolutely. This is a team effort. We all know, but I'll mention it for the viewing audience, whether you're in person or at home, ESSER 3 funds are primarily meant to address the impact of COVID. And probably, in my humble opinion, the most significant focus of this board is to lessen the COVID impact. So to review, those funds are to be spent over roughly a 3 or 4 year period of time. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. That is correct, through September 30th, 2024 for ESSER 3.
The other part of it is that it is up to management to come back to this board to say, here is how we plan to address the impact of COVID. Part of it as well is knowing where we are so we can know where we shall be. we've talked about this in board meetings before, and this is really the heart and substance of what the board focus is all about. But remind us what month we had our, for lack of a better word, benchmark. Not your term, but it's the one that I can use because it's meaningful to me. And this goes to you, Linda. What time period did we roll out the benchmark? When do we expect to have an analysis of it so that you can then give us a game plan, albeit one that will have to have modification as we go along, going forth? The funding helps to address part of it, but now the ball's kind of in your court, since you know there will be some money available. So kind of sketch that out for us, please.
So, Mr. Jackson, we moved our benchmarks a little earlier than we typically do in the fall, and we started them in September. So this past month, we've started them. We're pretty much done with them. We have I think it's a primary grade that still needed a little bit more time to get theirs done. And so now we are in the process of evaluating them. We had hoped to be done, but we're not. And so we're in the process of evaluating them, and we will have a report for you in November, because we're except for a little bit of primary, we're pretty much through with them.
Mr. Jackson, just to add to that, there's a little uncertainty, and the uncertainty is because we're running a temporary virtual school. We've got a lot of our instructional coaches tied up with actually teaching students virtually. So in all honesty, that's going to put us behind a little bit, just because, I cannot thank our instructional coaches and our teachers that volunteered to be virtual when they thought they were going to be in person this year. They've really stepped up. But we're encouraged just from news that's coming out that maybe a possible child vaccine will be available, and maybe we can start sometime in December and January with everyone back in person.
And Mr. Jackson, I will add too that we're not waiting for the results of the DPMs or the district benchmarks to start working with students. We provided all of our campuses with ESSER funds. And with those ESSER funds, they are using money for extended time learning, for tutoring. You may recall that you all approved the closing the gap time, those 30 minutes for all kids to be able to get some additional instruction. All of that is happening. Some of them purchased some specialists, reading specialists and math specialists. They bought that with their ESSER money. They're using those support kits as well. So while we're waiting on data, please know that we are continuing with the work of supporting students.
A very key and important answer. I'm not bothered that the timeline has slipped. This analysis is far more important than the ones we have done in years past, because in years past it was always fairly predictable. This one will have all kinds of surprises, of both varieties. Early on, we already knew that the surprise was better than what we were reading about in the newspaper from other districts. So I would not at all be surprised that we have good surprises coming out of the data. One benchmark, since I was a national merit kid, I always look at our numbers there. Although our numbers are down, they're still strong. And I see that also as a testament to the work of our teachers and our administrators. I also appreciate the fact that you are not waiting to get the data back. You're already moving ahead to address. One of our campuses that came in for special state recognition, and I was privileged to actually interview the principal on film about it. Her point was it wasn't really the programs, it was focusing on each individual child each and every day. And I know all of our principals, as well as our teachers, are doing that. I will mention some concerns I have. I'm concerned about lack of staffing. I am concerned about burnout. Last year, the effort put forth was absolutely magnificent. But there's a length of time where it's difficult to maintain that same degree of intensity and magnificence. So I'm concerned about burnout. We have enhanced mental health to deal with it. Doesn't mean that I don't worry about it almost every day of the week. I worry that our curriculum department is understaffed for the demands that we will be placing upon it. I have no answers for you other than that's a concern I have. Lack of people is lack of people. Karen just told us we have money again. But having money doesn't address lack of people. So those are my observations. But for tonight, at least, I love the news you're giving to us. It's wonderful. And I look forward to hearing more about this in November and December as your plans and data roll out. Thank you once again.
Thank you. It was a group effort.
Mr. Sarabia.
Outstanding job, Karen. Nice to hear about getting the extra money and your staff staying on them to make sure that the money is delivered to where it's supposed to be. But I also back Ms. Blackshear's comments on government overreach. It's just it's not the right thing for them to be doing and stuff. Absolutely. But it's nice to have a great fund balance, as Don had brought up there, making sure that fund balance is good. I think you said we're about 6 months out, which is really reassuring. As the money comes in, I'm sure Linda will spend it wisely. I think Bones will attest to that and stuff. So very, very well. Good job there, Karen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Karen, one more time I'm going to ask, and I've had this question sent to me a number of times in the past few weeks, and that is on the property values. And can you restate exactly the control? Because there are people out there that believe if our property values are going up, then we're going to get that much more money. But there is a level of which we do get, and the balance then goes to the state. Can you be more definitive on that for us?
Absolutely. The way the state aid formula works is it basically looks at the local share, which is the school district share, which comes from property taxes, and that's associated with whatever our property values are, and then the state share. We are basically going to get the same pot of money, so to speak, unless we have an increase in enrollment. So as property values go up, then that means if you apply as property values go up and you apply the tax rate, depending on what that is, typically property taxes will go up, that revenue to the district. Property tax revenue will go up to the district because of that increase in property values, even though this year we have a decrease in the tax rate, but if property values goes up, there could be a difference there. But then we get less state aid when that local share goes up. And as the property values, if we were in a decreasing environment, then we would get more state aid. So they're always leveling us out to where we don't have any more money unless we have an increase in enrollment or an increase in the special different funding that we would receive, such as bilingual funding, special education, career and technology, et cetera.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in simple terms, all things being equal, if attendance is the same and weights are all the same, if we generate $1 more locally with property taxes, the state lowers their funding to us by $1. So it always stays equal. So rising property values help on the interest and sinking side on our debt, but it really doesn't help any on our maintenance and operation side.
And that's kind of where the misinformation is out there. And then one final thing is our optional homestead exemption. And you've explained this a number of times, but once again, the optional homestead exemption that we've offered for 30 years, since 1983, I believe, 40 years, that's counted against us, right, Karen?
Basically what happens is with our state aid, with our funding, it's looked at as if as if we didn't have that optional homestead exemption. In other words, our values were higher, because what happens for the taxpayer is their value goes down by that 20% optional homestead exemption before property taxes are applied. But the state looks at it as if we had taxed the home on the entire value and not reduced for that 20% optional homestead exemption.
So they don't give us the amount of money that we should be getting because we're offering the optional homestead exemption.
They do not give us additional state funding because we offer the optional homestead exemption.
Thank you.
And I believe, Karen, correct me, but that's in the neighborhood of $80 million?
Yes, sir. It's about 80 million. And if you take into consideration the additional amount with the Freeport exemption, it's $118 million.
Thank you, Karen. Wonderful report. Appreciate your sharing with us. I'm sorry, Tom, one more?
There was one other concern, and it's the biggest mark I have on my paper, and somehow I didn't bring it up. I have taught in the classroom, and I have said here at the board microphone that the gold standard is 6 months' worth of reserves, pure and simple. You go to any finance person, they're going to give you roughly the same answer. I am concerned that the state of Texas is not concerned about best fiscal practices. I will note that an individual very prominent in that area actually sent me a letter requesting donations because that individual's fund balance was insufficient to cover a black swan event that occurred during the summertime. But if a sovereign says that you can't do something, you can generally think that the sovereign will follow through, whether it's good business practice or not. I raised the point, I know you're well aware of it, but I do want the viewing audience to be aware that we will be punished for being financially prudent. And somehow this board and this senior management team will have to figure out how to address that going forth.
Okay, Tom, that wasn't a question, right? That was a statement, right?
Bob, all my questions are really statements.
Well, I know.
But you asked that for the viewing audience so that they could distinguish between the two.
Unlike you, I was not GTE. Is that right? No, GR. I wasn't one of those. So, okay, now we'll proceed to the consensus action items portion of the agenda. 8A, the board will consider approving the minutes of September 13th, 2021 regular board meeting. The following non-consensus action items were moved to consent during the board work session on Thursday, October the 7th, 2021. 9A, the board consider approving the CFISD trustee Tom Jackson's request to attend the 2022 NSBA Advocacy Institute in Washington, D.C. I asked this to be put on the agenda because Texas Association of School Boards and with the National School Board Association offers this every year except for the past 2 years when we were unable to do that due to COVID. It is an opportunity for a board member from Cy-Fair or more than one board member and from multiple districts to go to Washington, D.C. to listen to presentations and then to get to sit down and meet with our representatives up there to talk about our school board business with them, get their opinions, share ours. It's a wonderful opportunity. Last year we were able to do this. We had 90 representatives from across the state of Texas that went. We were the largest delegation in Washington, D.C., and we got to visit with a lot of ours. So I reached out to each of our board members because we were getting close to the deadline to turn it in to TASB, because TASB does offer a stipend to cover the cost of the conference. And Mr. Jackson was the one that responded and said that he was interested. So I had to go ahead and submit his name, but tonight I would like, and this is going to be part of the consent agenda, to have Tom Jackson be approved for going to Washington, D.C. in 2022. So this is all part of the consent. That's my explanation. I hope you're not too confused.
And Mr.
Yes.
President, I will have to abstain from voting.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't it moved to consent, though?
Well, it is on consent, but when we vote,
No, I understand that, but it's part of the consent agenda, right?
Yes, sir.
It was all moved to that. Okay. 9B, the board consider approving on first reading additions, revisions, or deletions to district policies. Thursday, presenters were Deborah Stewart and Roy Garcia on 9B1, DEC local, compensation and benefits, leaves and absences revised. 9B2, FFAC local, wellness and health services, medical treatment revised. 9C, the board consider approving on second reading additions, revisions, or deletions to district policies. Presenters were Roy Sprague, Dr. Deborah Stewart, and Marnie Sims. 9C1, CV local, facilities construction, revised. 9C2, DEA local, compensation and benefits, compensation plan, revised. 9C3, EHBAF local, special education, video/audio monitoring, revised. 9D, the board consider approving and submitting to the Commissioner of Education a request for maximum class size waiver. Presenter on Thursday was Dr. Deborah Stewart. 9E, the board will consider approving the shared service arrangement between Cypress-Fairbanks ISD and Lone Star College. Presenters were Dr. Linda Macias, Dr. Heather Bergman. 9F, the board will consider authorizing the superintendent to execute a memorandum of understanding with the University of St. Augustine for the health sciences for speech pathology field placement. Presenter was Dr. Linda Macias and Barbara Lewandowski. Now I will either entertain a motion or if there are questions, well, now I need a motion first, so I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the consent agenda as recommended and/or amended.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. Anybody have any questions?
Mr.
Jackson?
President? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Stewart, my question is the same whenever we talk about waivers. When I was a citizen, I stood before some of these board members to say I recommended going forth permitting waivers. That was adopted. As a trustee, I don't like to hear about waivers. So bring us up to date once again for the viewing audience where we stand on waivers.
Okay. This year, 38 of our 56 campuses are requesting waivers. These waivers impact approximately 350 pre-K through K students out of 40,000. The majority of the waivers are, we have vacancies, and principals have decided not to move their kids around because of learning loss.
I think that's about as succinct as you can say it. Do we anticipate being able to fill some of those vacancies as the year goes on?
We do. We are anticipating teachers in December after the second semester.
But shortages happen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Jackson, just to add to that, we try really hard to hire all the outstanding student teachers that we have in the fall for the spring. So we're hoping that we get a good crop of them this year. But I would say the labor shortage is not just in schools. It's everywhere. We're fighting for bus drivers, custodians, professional staff, everyone. So just a tough market to hire.
It is a very difficult market. Understand. Thank you, Mr. President.
And Mr. Jackson, you want to not vote? So you want to say that, or do you want me to just assume it's okay?
When you call for the vote,
Then you'll make the statement?
I will make the
Any
statement.
other questions? All right, so we're calling for a vote.
Mr. President, I abstain from voting on this matter because I'm involved in one of the resolutions.
Thank you. All in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous with one abstention. The board, now we will proceed with the superintendent's briefing portion of the agenda. Dr. Henry will provide information regarding district events and items of community interest.
Thank you, Mr. Covey. Trustees, the CFISD Trustee Candidates Forum is scheduled for tomorrow, October 12th, from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Berry Center Theater, 8877 Barker Cypress Road. The forum will allow the community to learn more about each candidate in the trustee election and will air live on the district website and on CFTV Comcast Channel 16. More candidate information is also available on the district's website at www.cfisd.net. I want to remind employees and community members that we will have the privilege to exercise one of our greatest rights, voting on Election Day, November 2nd. That's Tuesday. Early voting actually begins next week. Those voting dates are October 18th through the 29th, and Leslie, I'm looking at you. That information is also on the website, correct? Okay. That information is also available, your early voting hours plus the sites plus Election Day sites and times. During the week of October 25th through October 29th, 2021, Cypress-Fairbanks ISD will participate in Red Ribbon Week activities. The National Family Partnership organized the first nationwide Red Ribbon campaign as a way for people in communities to unite and take a visible stand against drugs. The Red Ribbon campaign, the largest drug prevention program in the nation, originated in 1985 and used a visual display of red ribbons as a symbol of intolerance towards the use of drugs. We hope you will join us in supporting our students during Red Ribbon Week, and certainly we appreciate Dr. Ife Ogumake and her team for helping organize that. Along with celebrating Red Ribbon Week, CFISD will participate in National Bullying Prevention Month, a nationwide campaign held during the month of October, uniting communities around the world to educate and raise awareness of bullying prevention. The 26th Annual District-Wide College Night will be conducted virtually this year through November 20th, with the next live chat available on Saturday, October 16th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. All high school students and their parents will have the opportunity to explore and connect with more than 200 different colleges and universities from around the world, providing information online. More information along with a link to register can be found on the district website. National School Lunch Week is this week, October 11th through 15th, celebrating the National School Lunch Program that serves nearly 30 million children every day and the importance of a healthy school lunch. CFISD's Nutrition Services team serves more than 100,000 meals each day and is celebrating this year's theme, Wild About School Lunch, with special menus, events, student activities, and more. October 18th to 22nd is designated as School Bus Safety Week, a public education program addressing the importance of school bus safety. The 2021-2022 theme is One Bus Plus One Driver equals a big impact on education. A reminder that Friday, October 22nd, is a designated teacher workday and student holiday. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everybody in attendance. This meeting, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I had one more thing I'd like to say, and
Sure.
that is, in watching the past school board meetings that I missed, I don't think we noted or congratulated Mr. Covey on receiving the Texas State University Distinguished Alumni Award.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you. It's quite an honor, and a whole lot of that award is due to this district and having the opportunity and the honor to serve on this board. And one of the most favorite thing I enjoyed doing was recruiting students for Cy Fair. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. This meeting is adjourned.